Broadcasting from the city of sun and rain off the Atlantic Ocean in Boca Raton, Florida. Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation and around the world. I'm your host, Chad Deckard, and welcome to my ChadDeckard.com podcast show. My shows will cover how online and offline marketing communications can build your business, as well as topics on tips, tricks, and techniques, digital lifestyles, the future of finance, entrepreneurism, and travel and adventure. Thank you for tuning into my show as we begin this adventure together, exploring many great things to come. Now, let's get down to business in today's show. Today's show is the third installment, or third show of the year of 2013, and we are going to cover the third installment of the second installment of 10 innovative ways that you can make your marketing more strategic and effective with limited resources in a downturning economy. So we will go over all 10 ways to innovate since that show was 2 episodes ago. So feel free to go back into the archives and download last week's show and the first show of the year of 2013. Now let's go ahead and talk about the 10 innovative ways before we get into the nuts and bolts of this show. Number 1 is find your ideal prospect. Number 2 is what makes your business different than your competition, which is today's show. Number 3 is develop a core message that addresses your ideal prospect's need. Number 4, use the AIDA formula to aid your sales letters and direct response material. Number 5 is total internet presence. Number 6 is referral marketing. Number 7 is connect with the media. Number 8 is create a sales system. Number 9 is schedule your marketing. And number 10 is set the stage so your employees know what is happening and why. So today's topic matter is what makes your business different than the competition. Something that a lot of businesses overlook. What I like to tell people is don't worry about your competition. Let them worry about you. You know, don't be a sheep. Be a leader. Be a follower. Be the sheep herder and let yourself set the bar and let everybody else try to catch up with you. It doesn't matter whether you're the biggest fish in the pond. You know, just be a fish in the pond. Show up. So, let me ask you a few questions before we get started. Who is your closest competitors? Okay. How are you going to beat your competition? What makes you better than your competition? And what are the differentiating factors between you and your competition? Those are several questions that you should probably contemplate and rewind and think about. And that's what this show is going to cover. It's like you get asked these types of questions all the time from prospects and clients and your internal staff, so don't overdo trying to answer them. I'm going to use a reading service firm as an example. This reading service firm, that I was reviewing here lately, as a potential client, I was looking at their business plan and helping them tighten up some verbiage and the way they position themselves, because they're obviously a startup and they're looking for some additional financing to grow the size of their business. So as I began to learn a little bit more about who they are, what they're all about, I started to get into the sections of where they were measuring themselves up against the competition. And I find that people who run services firms waste a lot of time and effort worrying about and angling against other firms that provide similar services. Usually it's just not worth your time and your focus. And in this program, you'll find that I'll cover 4 common mistakes that service firm leaders make and 5 tips on how to save time, money, and a heartache when thinking about the dreaded competition. So my first mistake that a lot of businesses run into is beaten to death research. Some businesses and marketing plans list and describe a page after page of information about their competition. Over the past 3 months, I was able to successfully locate 77 other negotiation consulting firms. Detailed descriptions follow along with our unique position against each one. Well, that's what I get from, this service firm telling me about what their competition is like. And, basically my reaction was, what a waste of 3 months of someone's time. Most people would laugh at an accountant who confidently stated, quote, I have discovered that there are 142 other accounting firms in the state and can confirm that 131 of them offer a number of services similar to ours, quote. Yet somehow this information shows up in a service firm's marketing plan after marketing plan as if it were a necessary component. What a waste. Mistake number 2, market and service offering reluctance. Many service firms are reluctant to offer a new service that complements their current services because a competitor already offers it. Quote, you see, we can't launch an intellectual property law practice because at least 5 other firms offer that in our market, and I learned in business school that first movers have an advantage. If you're not number 1 or 2, you shouldn't launch into the market. Once again, my reaction to a quote like that is law firms, consulting firms, IT firms, financial services, and other professional services are not Coke and Pepsi. The market dynamics just don't work like that. So scratch that from your mind. It does not apply. Mistake number 3, cliche competitive differentiation. Cliche competitive differentiation. I'm impressed I actually said that. Quote, here's the client speaking once again. We at ABC Tax and Consulting Services are the number 1 provider in our market. Our biggest differentiator is our people who take a strategic look at our clients' businesses and blend people, process, and technology to create efficient and effective solutions for our clients' most pressing strategic needs. We're more than a tax services. We're strategic business advisors with the experience you need. Okay, well, my reaction. Copy like this takes a lot of space and says nothing except I have nothing real to say, so I'll use some meaningless marketing speak. All right, mistake number 4, unique methodology. Quote, this is the client speaking to me again, another scenario. We have a unique methodology that allows us to deliver projects more efficiently with greater ongoing success. There are 5 major steps: discovery, design, development, implementation, and measurement. Quote, my reaction, sure, it's unique. There's just one process like this, but everyone uses it or something similar. Misconceptions like these hinder service business growth and success because they limit the thinking of the people who run firms and practices. Let me ask you this question. What should you do about these misguided views of your competition? Think about that. What should you do about these misguided views of your competition? All right, well, I'll give you some tips then about that. Tip number 1, forget about your marketing textbook. Your marketing textbooks will tell you to, 1, be the first mover in the market or you'll have an advantage over the later entrants. Number 2, be number 1 or 2 in the market. No one else can make enough profit. Number 3, have a unique selling proposition that other firms can't easily duplicate. And number 4, be amazingly different from other firms in your space. Differentiation is the key. I ask you, who grabbed the position first and now owns high-quality investment advice in Boston, Massachusetts? Is it John Hancock? Is it Citigroup? Is it Brown Brothers Harriman? Is it Fidelity Investments? Charles Schwab? TD Waterhouse? Solomon Smith Barney? Bank North? Charles Schwab, Citizens Bank, RBC, and I could go on and on and on. Who cares? They're all criminals anyway. So, does it matter who was there first? Can anybody even tell me who was there first? I can't. Do you think that people in a 6-person law firm can't make big money? Well, they can. And they can do it in a market where there are 200-person law firms that deliver the similar services to similar kinds of clients. Are their services really different from each other? Do you want a different kind of dentist fixing your teeth, or do you just want a good one? I'm sure you just want a good one because you don't want the pain, and you don't want the pain that comes after it if they do a bad job. So marketing textbooks and many business books and consultants focus on like Procter & Gamble or Whole Foods or U.S. Steel or Coke versus Pepsi. We identify with them all, and they're quite interesting. But the strategies they espouse can't usually help the 35-person consulting firm grow to 50 people. More often, they just get in the way. So number two, the tip that I could give you on, does it really matter who's first? Well, don't worry about the crowded markets. I couldn't tell you how many Italian restaurants are in New York City's Little Italy or how many steakhouses there are in Chicago. There are simply too many to count. But I'm pretty confident that there is not a booming row of authentic French bistros in Peru, Maine. If you are a human resource consultant, and there are a multitude of human resource consultants that do what you do in the market where you do it, it simply means there's a market for it. If you look for a space to create a market and be the first mover and shaker to it, there's a good chance nobody's there because nobody's buying. In the microeconomic technical sense, the Coke versus Pepsi market dynamic is an oligopoly, while service firm markets are monopolistic competition. In an oligopoly, I can't say it. I hate that word anyway. You have a few top players with all the clout, market share, and profits, and everyone else is struggling to survive or get a little piece of the crumbs that are left. This doesn't happen in a monopolistic competition. There are 88 pizza restaurants in the Yellow Pages in Miami, Florida. The 89th can make it too, if the pizza's good. Enter a crowded market where there's lots of business to be had and lots of clients with needs. And assuming your pizza's any good, there's a good chance that you can thrive. Open a French bistro in Peru, Maine. Good luck selling those foie glace. I don't even know how to say that, but it's a dessert. So let's get back to tip number 3. In tip number 3, once again, let's reiterate what we're talking about here. Does it matter who was there first? So in tip number 3, you ask the question, the subject is change the question from competition to clients. Change the question from competition to clients. Okay, let's say you're interviewing someone for a job at your firm. It's perfectly reasonable for them to ask you, what differentiates you from your competition? Same thing goes with your clients and prospects. You may feel the need to answer, comparing yourself both categorically to your competition and then against specific competition, and on about your competition. You don't want the conversation to linger on about competition. The more you talk about them, the more you validate that your client, prospect, or staff member should be comparing you to them. Instead, like a good salesperson, take control of the questioning and you will take control of the conversation. For example, you might answer, quote, well, we have a very robust research division that keeps us on the cutting edge of the ABC field, and to my knowledge, the competition doesn't. In fact, they quote our research to make their points. But at the end of the day, we're the leaders, not them. Importantly, I don't know what they do with our research. I know what we do. However, and how it makes our clients' lives better, here's a specific example from your industry. How might this fit with what you're doing? Okay? Think about that. All right, let's go into tip number 4. Drop the cliches. Just drop them. Forget about them. When you do answer the question, what makes you different? Don't answer, oh, our people. Oh, people, process, and technology. Efficient and effective. We're the best. We're unique. We're cutting edge. We push the envelope. We go the extra mile. We're client-centered, etc. If you do, you'll simply be helping people win the game of buzzword bingo. You don't believe me? Google buzzword bingo and see what comes up first. You'll learn something very unique. Have something real to say. Tip number 5. Overcome your greatest competitor and client indifference. Finally, and perhaps the most important to realize, is that for most product companies, the competition is another product company. For most service businesses, the stiffest competition is the indifference of your client to do anything, do more, or the desire of your client to just do it with in-house resources. So, In a recent benchmark report on professional service marketing and selling from a client perspective, 40% of 200 buyers of a consulting and professional service firm encountered service providers that did not understand their needs. 32% said that the service providers did not convince them of the value that they would receive from their services that they provided. So that shows that basically one third of anybody that anyone's speaking to on a given basis, and this is even if they've got their A game on, said that the service providers did not convince them of the value that they would provide them. So this is where you really need to take the time to think about what it is that you want to say and what it is that's going to set you apart from the rest. You know, you have to convince the buyer of the value that your services will bring to the table, regardless of how you stack up with the competitor. So worry less about who your competitor is and worry more about the value you offer to the client. You'll win more deals in the process and beat the competition without even giving them a second thought. So remember, value is the key. Absolutely. Because, I'll give you an example. This past weekend, I was invited by a friend of mine who is, in the higher echelons of AT&T's media buying department in Atlanta, Georgia. And he was invited, and who invited me to attend the BCS National Championship between Notre Dame and Alabama in Miami, Florida. And I have to say it was awesome. It was a great experience. I'd never been to a national championship for college football and all the excitement that revolved around it, but I got a first-class experience, and it cost me no more than I think $50 for 2.5 days of having a fantastic time on the expense of ESPN. And as I was there speaking to him about media buying and how the corporates deal with each other, it was funny because I have AT&T, I have ESPN, I've got other large corporate clients, buyers there. And part of the packages that ESPN gives value to the corporate, I would say, status quo is, hey, if you buy from us X amount of time, for this particular event, we will ensure that you get X many tickets or hotel rooms, special backstage or VIP passes, or you can meet this person, or we'll do this. And they give them all types of incentives and value. And the fact that we guarantee you that if we lose ratings in the second half because it's a blowout, that will make up the rating points for you somewhere along the way and some other type of programming that is related. So I offer value. Now, I can't narrow it down to exactly what those salespeople say to people who are buying their media or their sponsorships, but keep in mind that they're adding a lot of added value to buying their particular event that gives incentive to possibly the person that's handling the budget or money or the buying process for another corporation. So that really helps them and gives them a competitive advantage of, say, at the same time slot, another type of sporting event, they spend, either more or less. So the value, by giving them value, they'll end up spending more. And I've seen that many times on these special where they position different things. If you spend, it's sort of like event sponsoring where you have bronze, silver, gold, and what the value add is based on the amount of money that you contribute to the event itself. So, that's kind of a really great example of an experience that I had this weekend. And by the way, I have to say ESPN did it right. They bought me dinner, bought me drinks, unlimited for 2 days, got me into their VIP tent, got to meet a lot of different celebrities and really cool people, had dinner right next to Jerome Bettis, Andre Federer, and what was it? I met Ty Hicks, the American Idol. Saw I forget the actor's name. His name's Money. I can't remember his name, but there was a lot of very interesting and cool people that I was able to meet and hang out with and have access to. And it was quite an event, and that's why I'm talking about it now, is that it added extra value and gave ESPN more clout because of what they delivered, the value to their clients and the parties and the access. So hopefully that helps you in understanding better about how to position yourself with competition and what makes you different than the competition and what you can deliver that they can't. And in this instance, ESPN could deliver something that was beyond anybody else being able to deliver because, they are ESPN. They are the largest sports network, television network, and radio network in the country, let alone the world. And thus they can deliver something that nobody else can. But that doesn't mean that, say, a CBS doesn't have sports CBS, but maybe they just can't deliver quite like ESPN can. And they've done a great job in positioning themselves, what makes them unique over their competition. So that's about it for today's show. If you like my show, please consider subscribing to it, which you can do by visiting my website, chaddeckard.com. Or if you are an iTunes or Stitcher listener, take it with you wherever you may go on your mobile device. I invite you to give the rest of the listeners and myself all the feedback that you can contribute or support, because you are part of what makes this show a success. Please click your share or like button for this audio or video version of this show on your social networks like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or your blog. I really appreciate you doing so. Well, that's about it for now for this show. Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be, across the nation and around the world. This is Chad Deckard signing off. Goodbye for now.